Okay guys, welcome back. So that was exciting. We got our Armada stream. Got a lot of information for some things and not as much as I expected with others, but we at least got teasers for a lot of different stuff that's coming. Um, I've I took screenshots of as much stuff as I could. I waited for the articles to come up. Um, I've included the cards that were included in the articles in this discussion. We're going to quickly go through it. I've tried to order things as best I could, but we're just going to go through it in the order that I've put it in. Pretty much Galactic Republic first, Separatists are going to be second. Going to talk about some of the rules changes that they talked about, which I think they didn't get too deep in, but they gave us an idea of what's coming. And then I have the cards from the articles that we're going to talk about. So we have pictures, which we've kind of seen before, of our ships for the Galactic Republic. We're going to get an Acclimator and 2 Consular class cruisers. The paint jobs are just amazing. We also get 4 Torrent fighters in this pack as well. Got a little bit of ship information. I think this is similar to what we'd already kind of seen. There's so underneath the name, the title of the class of the ship. So we have an Acclimator 1 class assault ship. We have a couple of what they're calling ship traits. They're not technically calling them keywords, but they're calling them traits. They work kind of like keywords in that if something says clone only, it can only go on a clone ship, and I would assume that the same for transport. If something says transport only, it's going to only be allowed on a transport ship. They did say that they will probably try and include this sort of mechanic to future Rebel and Imperial ships as well, but no plan to go back to already released ships and add any of this sort of information. Now, of course, we're not going to get clone for Rebels or Imperials, but we could get something like the transport. For the Consular class cruisers, we do know one of the Consular class cruisers is not going to be a clone ship. The other one will be. And like I've talked about before, the Consular class cruisers, they're very CR90-ish. Their anti-squadron, at least for the armed cruiser, is really good. 2 blue dice for a small ship anti-squadron is really pretty good. We'll have to see how that works out. Trying to think. Oh, and so for the Acclimators, we know that the Acclimator 1 is going to have 2 offensive retrofits, and the other Acclimator 2 is going to have a defensive retrofit instead. In the class 2, we can see up here a little bit, it is 3 squadron. So I would expect the Acclimator 1 to be at least 3 squadron, maybe even 4. I do expect the class 2 will be more expensive, so probably more in the 70-72 point range. So this is one of the first upgrades that they have. So reactive gunnery, and the icon next to reactive gunnery means it's our typical exhaust refresh type mechanic. So it exhausts during the turn, so you can only use it once per turn, but then it refreshes before the next turn, and you're able to use it. There's no cost in refreshing it. It just is restricting you to being able to use it once per turn. So while defending, you may exhaust this card and spend a ready defense token, any defense token you want, to resolve the salvo defense effect instead of that token's effect. You cannot resolve the salvo defense effect more than once per attack, which is what the icon says. So this is a great card. It's something that you can use with your rebels and Imperials. This is something that's going to transfer over to your other fleets, especially the rebels Imperials, where they each only have one ship that even has the salvo token. So this is a decent option, and at 4 points, I think it's good. It fits in. It might be something that you can fit in instead of ECM, especially for a ship that has a good rear arc. And it's great because if you have this on there and you've burnt all your shields and you've got nav redirect defense tokens out there, you can use your it's another way to use your redirect tokens once your shields are gone. So I think it's a really good card. We'll see how much it gets played. Then we had our squadrons for the Republic. The V19 Torrent, we have the detail card, 12 points. I think it's a decent cost. I mean, it's not a cheap base squadron, but it's not super expensive either. It has Escort and Swarm. So Escort is like an X-Wing, Swarm is like a TIE fighter. So this is like kind of a little bit of both, which is kind of appropriate, I think. 5 hull is actually really good for 12 points, I think. Speed 3, that's more X-Wing-ish than it is TIE Fighter-ish. It does have a black anti-ship die, which is really good. That's like an A-Wing. And the anti-squadron it's a little bursty because it has that 1 red and 2 blues. It's not super strong anti-squadron, but it's decent. I included the Delta 7 from the previous live stream just to talk about a second squadron. I believe this one is 17 points. It has a bunch of new keywords on it. I think this is an excellent squadron. It has Adept. So Adept is while attacking, you may reroll 1 die. So this is going to work against other squadrons and against ships. Really good. Has Counter 2. That's like an A-Wing. Again, really good. And Dodge 1. So this one only works against squadrons, but you can force your opponent to reroll a die after they attack. So really good. I think it's going to be relatively survivable ship. They also said that there's going to be a significant number of unique ace squadrons in these packs. So unlike the Rebel and Imperial versions where you would get 1 generic and 1 ace, looks like you're going to get multiple aces for at least some of these ships. They did say that they're trying to include lots of Jedi. There was going to be a Jedi on one of the Y-Wings as well as Jedi on the Delta 7s. I expect that we'll probably get 2 or 3 Delta 7 uniques at least. I think it's really good. It's expensive, but I like the Delta 7s a lot. So we'll get into the Separatists. Again, really good. And honestly, first blush, I'm a little bit more excited for the Separatists, to tell you the truth. I think the Munificent just looks fantastic. The hard cells, I think they're a little bit of... I think they just needed a small ship. And we get our Vulture droids with our chips in the starter. They did say for the hard cells, so one interesting thing for the hard shells are going to get fleet support. So this is going to be the first non-flotilla fleet support ship, which means you're not restricted to only 2 of them. You're going to be able to take 3 or 4 of these if you want and have a whole bunch of fleet support if you want. But it is only one of the ones. So the battle refit that's shown here doesn't have it. The other version does. We have the Munificent class frigate. It's slow but relatively maneuverable. It has that double click on the second at speed 2, so you're going to be able to turn pretty well with it. It has 3 squadron. It looks like the hard cell is going to have 2. And the hard cells also have a defensive retrofit, which is interesting. The hard cells are also a little bit expensive for a small ship too, at over 50 points. Now, this upgrade, it has some of the new iconography that they were talking about in the thing. So on the left-hand side of the card, where it's blue, the 5 and the concentrate fire symbol means you put 5 concentrate fire tokens on this card at the beginning of the game. When you reveal command dial, after you reveal the command dial, you can exhaust the card and discard as any number of concentrate fire tokens that are on the card to choose that many friendly ships at distance 1 to 5 and assign each chosen ship a concentrate fire token. So you can really push out a lot of extra rerolls, I guess, with that concentrate fire tokens. In theory, you could do all 5 in one turn and be done with it. If you don't get them back. So once you use all 5, it's gone. This card does have a new mechanic in that it's an exhaust, but it has a cost in order to be able to refresh it. This is new for Armada. We haven't had exhausts with costs before. So the cost to refresh this card is that you have to spend either a concentrate fire, engineering, or nav token. And I'm assuming that it is not one of the 5 that are on the card. You would have to have a concentrate fire token on your ship. Now, I would assume, I'm just reading the card again. So it doesn't say another friendly ship. So you could, in theory, give out 2 of these to other friendly ships, give 1 to yourself. So you have 2 left on the card, it exhausts. During the status phase, you can spend that concentrate fire token that you have taken and then refresh the card, get access to the other 2, then in the next turn send those 2 out to the same 2 ships or 2 other ships, and then they can use them and you tap it again. So that's one way to do it. Otherwise you would have to get tokens onto the ship to be able to spend to refresh otherwise. I'm assuming there is no rules out yet. This is how I understood it to work. I could be wrong. If you understood it differently, please leave something in the comments and let me know. But that's how I understood this mechanic to work. Then we have some squadrons. So we have the generic vulture droid. So these have a new mechanic as well. So they have an AI built in, which I completely expected that Separatists are going to have some sort of AI for the droids. For this one, the AI is if you're activated by a ship, so you're not activating during the squadron phase. If you were activated with the squadron command, you can add 1 die. This is only when you're attacking a squadron. Sorry, I'm reading the card at the same time as I'm doing this. So it's only when attacking squadrons, but you can add a die to your pool of either color. So in this case, you could pick a blue or a black and add it to your pool, which is really good. I think you're going to see these being activated by ships. You're not going to be just flying them around in the squadron phase. Also have swarm. So a lot of swarm, both factions, lots of swarm. So I think the rebels are going to be the one faction that has very limited amounts of swarm. So this is one of the unique vulture droids. This came up in the previous, this is something else from the previous live stream. This one, it's hard to tell. It's significantly more points, whether it's, I think it might be 18, but I'm not sure. That seems a little bit expensive, I don't know. It also has the AI This has red and black, but it has intel, so it might be 18 because it has the intel. Now, it has an ability that while you are defending, if the attack is obstructed, you may force the attacker to re-roll one die of your choice. So I see this guy, he's going to be sitting on rocks a lot. And it's probably symbolic with his art too, flying through asteroids and such. I think he's going to be sitting on rocks a lot in order to take advantage of his ability, also to be able to give out his intel bubble. Maybe separatists, they're going to try and get their squadrons massed around rocks so that, and start fighting other squadrons or try and fight ships near obstacles, so that this guy can give out his intel bubble, send other squadrons where they need to be, and make it difficult for your opponent to attack and do damage to this guy. So the cost, we talked about that a little bit before, a little bit higher than I was hoping, but honestly, you're getting the same number of ships as the original core set. You're getting a few less squadrons, so there is a slight decrease in value there, and then you're getting more dials than you need. So we had talked about the dial pack. I believe it said that you're going to get 10 command dials in this, and I believe you're only going to need 4 or 5 for the ships that are in the packs. So you're getting kind of twice as many as you need. If you get 2 of these, there's no need for the dial pack really, because you're getting extra dials for ships in the future, which they did say will not be coming with dials anymore. So you're losing some cost in squads, you're gaining some value, and you're getting extra command dials, extra speed dials for the future. Not so good for veteran players like myself, because we don't need those dials. I would have preferred extra squadrons, but for new players, I think it's extra value. And I think as things go forward, we want to try and cost things out. It may be something that, we encourage new players. It's going to be questionable whether they need the dial pack or not. I think they'll need it if they're only going to get 1 starter and then wait for other ships to come out. But if they're going to get 2 starters, I think it's highly questionable whether they're going to need the dial pack or not. And also, they did mention, I didn't have a picture of it, that all of the pass tokens, there is going to be a new mechanic for the pass tokens. I'm not buying a dial pack for a bunch of pass tokens. I will buy Admiral Tater's acrylic tokens instead, and to have however many I need. I'm not going to worry about getting the dial pack. Alright, so some errata that they did talk about. It wasn't a lot. So Grand Admiral Thrawn, his points didn't change. His text didn't really change, but they did add the iconography off to the left. That means 3 dials. That symbol there is a command dial symbol. So that it's just an extra visual to give you an idea of what accompanies this commander. So he needs 3 dials with him. So this was the only points adjustment that they told us about. Now, if you watched my commander point adjustment suggestion video, I suggested Princess Leia ought to get a reduction and ought to be about 10 points. And we got a 10-point reduction on Princess Leia, which I think is excellent. I'm definitely going to revisit her in some lists now. I think it's a much more appropriate price point for Leia. I expect Tarkin will get something similar. They said maybe as much as, I think, 18%, which seems low, but in some ways I think it's high. 18% of cards are going to get some sort of points adjustment. I think that'll be interesting, but I definitely think Tarkin will. I don't know about the other commanders. You can watch my other videos about my point suggestions. We'll see if we get any. People did ask if ships will be getting points adjustments, and all these. It was a very ambiguous answer. They could, so we'll see about ships. Hopefully, that combat retrofit interdictor will get a points decrease. I hope. Turbo laser reroute circuits for veteran players, TRCS, very popular. It's seen a couple of erratas. This is just showing that this card now has the errata that we've seen previously, now included on the card. It also has the icon, the exhaust refresh icon next to the name of the upgrade. And then XI7's, one of my favorite, got a very minor change to it. It says, if the defender spends a redirect token, it cannot suffer more than 1 damage on each hull zone other than the defending hull zone when it resolves the redirect defense effect. So this is allowing advanced projectors, it's giving it more play. This is more of an adjustment so that there's not a hard counter to another upgrade in the game. If you have advanced projectors, which lets you put damage to other zones, it seems like you're still going to get some benefit from that. You'll be able to put one on one hull zone, one on another, so you'll get a little bit of benefit out of that. So XI7s is a little bit less of the hard counter and a little bit less effective overall. Still good though. Then they did mention this is all they really talked about. So these we already knew these were coming from leaks, but these are going to be the next 4 ships that we see. And they said Q1. We've seen other places where January. I'm going to guess probably later Q1, but hopefully we do get these Q1 so that we can build up these fleets as quickly as possible. Right, so we already knew about ObiWan Kenobi. We had got this as a teaser before. I'm just including him. Now, a couple of things that they said in the article is each of the starters are going to come with 2 commanders. So you're going to have 2 choices right to start, which I think is really good. It's going to give people options in their play, whereas the original core set had 1 for each faction. So it's the same number, but it's much more effective. You get more variety in your lists when you have choices between commanders. For so long, we only had 1 commander to choose from, and it didn't lend to a lot of variety in the game until other expansions came out. This is going to help the variety in the game, help people try different things with their lists. So ObiWan says that when you spend a readied redirect token, you can reduce the total damage by 1 before it suffers damage, which is really good. So again, this is another way to use redirect tokens, but it's more powerful than just when you don't have shields, because this works when you have shields as well. So even when you have shields, when you're spending redirects, you're reducing that damage every single time. And once you do get to hull, you can still keep using your redirect tokens to reduce the damage by 1 every single time. Now, Bail Organa. So Bail for the Galactic Republic, I think he's better than ObiWan, at least to start. ObiWan might be a lot better as things go along, but to start, I think on release, I think Bail Organa is who you need to be playing. He looks really strong to him. So we have got the blue iconography off to the side. Now, I guess the one thing I don't know about this is with the 5. Do you get to put 5 nav tokens and 5 engineering tokens, or do you get to put 5, a combination of 5 total tokens? So that does make a difference. If it's a combination of 5 total tokens, it's not as strong as I'm thinking. But if it's 5 of each, then I think he's really strong. And this also helps the acclimators quite a bit. We talked about acclimators don't have the best nav chart, so he really helps acclimators a lot. When a friendly ship reveals a command, you may discard up to 1 token of each type from this card. So you can have both on here. It's just whether the 5 is 5 total or 5 of each. You can do 1 token of each type, so you could send both a nav and a engineering token. That ship then gains an additional command dial matching that token's type. So you can run a concentrate fire command or a squadron command, have Bale send them a nav command and an engineering command, and get 3 command dials in 1 turn. Now we do know you can't do the same command twice, so if their command dial is nav, you can't send them the nav dial from Bale and get double nav somehow, or double engineering. But you can get 3 commands in 1 turn. I think he's better than Thrawn, I think. I mean, Thrawn's pretty good too. But, we'll have to wait and see. I'm just a little curious about the 5. Is it 5 total tokens, and you split them as you choose, or is it 5 of each? If it's 5 of each, it's like super strong, I think. When I play Galactic Republic early on, I'm playing Bale for sure. So we got 1 ship title for the Acclimator. I'm a little iffy on this one, but before a friendly ship or squadron at distance 1 to 2 suffers damage from an attack, you may exhaust the card and spend up to 2 shields from your front hull zone to reduce the total damage by that amount. I mean, if you don't have any shields in the front, it's not going to work. Generally speaking, the acclimators, I think you're going to be wanting to be pointed more towards your enemies, so you're going to have pressure put on those shields for the front. Now, if you have one of your acclimators that's sitting back in order to activate squadrons or as a support ship, then it's probably a little bit better. So we'll have to get more information about how we're going to build our lists. But right now, I don't see Implacable as a great title by any means. All right, and then we got a couple of CIS cards. So I do have a question in this. So this is an exhaust card, and it has a cost to it has a cost to refresh. But let's read the card first. It says, when you spend only an engineering, a nav, or a squadron command token to resolve a command, you can exhaust the card, and if you do, resolve that command as if you had spent a dial of the same type instead. So it's another way to get extra commands, and because the hard sell, you put CommsNet in a hard sell, you can send that squadron token over and get, I think that's the valuable way to do this is you get the squadron commands from a token, which you're getting a lot more value out of that, especially for a ship that has a high squadron value. The question that I have about this is you have to you have to spend a dial in order to refresh the card. And we did hear that that cost is spent during the status phase. So if you have to spend a dial, how exactly does that work? Does that mean you have no dial for that turn? I'm expecting that's what the case is going to be. You're going to spend the dial, and when you activate, you will have no command dial for that turn. You wouldn't be able, if it's a multiple command chip, you wouldn't be able to just go to the next command, because that would actually potentially be a benefit to you, which I'm sure they're not looking for. So I'm expecting that if you go to ready this, that when you ready it, you lose your command for that turn. And then Tide of Progress. So this is a Munificent title, 2 points. It's an exhaust with the cost of an engineering token to refresh. And before you are dealt a face-up damage card with the ship trait, which there's a fair number of, you can exhaust the card to discard that damage card without resolving its effect. So it's saving you a damage, and it's saving you a crit damage. Now, not all crits are ship, have the ship trait, so it's a little bit of a gamble, a little bit hit or miss, but for 2 points, it's only a 2-point title, so I think at 2 points, especially if you expect that Munificent to really be getting into the fray and probably taking some damage, I think the 2 points is, if you can fit it in your list, is probably going to be, a good thing to try. All right, so that's it. So that's all the information that we've got so far. What I'm going to be doing in the future is I'm going to start doing some beginner videos, so some learn to play type videos, short videos about different mechanics in the game, so that new players can get a little bit of, get a little bit acclimated to some of the mechanics of the game. How is it the same as other games? How is it a little bit different than other games? And how do things work in general? I'm going to start doing some of that. They said that there's going to be articles coming. I'm going to expect that we're going to be getting a fair number of articles between now and December. More detailed articles about the starters, more detailed articles about both of the squadron packs, more detailed article about the card pack, probably a more detailed article about the dial pack too, but I'm not sure that that's going to matter all that much. Plus a detailed article about rules changes. Now, whether that is all one article, or if they have one for rules changes, one's for points adjustments, I'm going to expect that we're going to get at least one article a month between now and December, possibly more. And we'll have to see. That it may not start up next month, but I think, as it gets closer, we're going to start getting an article a week probably, which I think is going to be really exciting. Hopefully you're really interested in the game. If you're not a player already, if you are a player, hopefully you're interested in these factions enough that you're going to buy into them. I know I am. I'm a little bit more excited about trying out the CIS because I think the mechanics in there are really interesting, and I'm really, and I really like the design of the Munificent especially. So I'm excited to play them. I'm excited to play the Galactic Republic as well. So thank you very much. Please give us a subscribe. If you're a new player, subscribe, get some information about the game, how it's played, so that you're ready to go. I'll also be giving some ideas of things that you might want to purchase leading into the release. So there are a couple of things that probably worthwhile for you to think about purchasing, especially if you can find them on sale before the release of the game. You know, especially if you're committed to get into the game. But thank you very much. Give a like, give a subscribe. Let's see your comments below. Are you excited? Is anything make you apprehensive about this? I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about the change in card styles. I don't love it either, but you know, it's just going to cause a mess on the sideboard. Otherwise, I think I'll be able to deal with it. We'll talk to you next time, and happy Armadaing. Thank you. Bye-bye.